Welcome everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm very pleased to welcome all of you for this special video where our speaker will give their feedback on the AI Mobility event that happened in early September in Munich, Germany. A few things to introduce the video. It will be a live discussion between three analysts from Yole Intelligence, part of your group, which have various fields of expertise. If you have a question on the topic that we discussed today, or if you want to get more information on our offer and products, feel free to reach us by email at any time. But without further to add, let's start this webinar by introducing the speakers that we have today. We have Pierrick Boulet, who is Senior Analyst in the activity Lighting and Photonics. We have Dr. Yu Yang, who is Senior Analyst in the Power Electronic team. And there is myself, Adrien Sanchez, Analyst in the Computing and Software activity. The three of us have a special focus on the automotive market, and we are all authors of several reports about the automotive markets. Then I want to introduce Yole Group. So our group is composed of three companies. We have Yole Intelligence. We do technology and market research in the semiconductor markets. We have Yole System Plus, formerly System Plus Consulting, which is famous for the technology process analysis, teardown, and reverse costing. And we have Piseo, which is doing characterization of electro-optical performances and risk, among other activities. Today, the three speakers will be are actually part of Yole Intelligence. So we are a worldwide group based all over the world. The headquarters are in France, but we really have analysis all over the world and mainly in three areas: in Europe, in Asia, and in North America. So our field of expertise is covering the full semiconductor industry in terms of activities and as well in terms of the supply chain. And we are also covering the 6 main markets in which you can find semiconductor components. Among these six markets, automotive is a strong focus of our company with more than 10 reports each year covering specifically this market. But let's move to the earth of our presentation today. You, Pierrick, you both have been to the AI show. Can you give us some feedback and share your experiences about the events?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Adrien. So to me, it was my first time going to the IAA event. So just to say what I think about this event. So we saw very few OEMs, automotive OEMs. Most of them were German OEMs, few of them. So the main one, Volkswagen, Audi, BMW, and Mercedes. And then most of the others were from China with large booths to show multiple car models and be in the spotlight to show what are their new technology, and especially for electric vehicles. Apart from OEMs, there were many suppliers, so tier ones and tier two and software companies that were showing new technologies. Most of their booths were focused on the electrification part, also on ADAS for safety, but also for autonomy. And the other part was mostly related to software and computing. But you have been, I think you have been multiple times on the IAA exhibition. What are your thoughts on this show?
Yes, you're right. I mean, because I'm a kind of half automotive background, so I have been to these kind of auto shows. Yeah, quite a long history. As you can see here, I put a little bit of numbers there. I was also surprised myself. So for me, it's very interesting to make some comparison, because I was also been to the IAA 2 years ago, also in Munich. The first time in Munich, before was in Frankfurt for decades, and also this year in April I was also in the Shanghai Auto Show. So if you make really the IAA itself to see it evolving, and also compare to the others in the other part of the world, I think it's a pretty amazing. So I would very agree with the 2 points Pierrick made. So why is that? The show itself, especially for the OEM side, is shrinking, I would say. It's basically, as you mentioned, it's basically German OEMs. And then, but on the other side, we see really a big flow of the Chinese players, including the OEMs and also the suppliers. I think that's also for me is a very, very amazing thing to see. And also that's quite also surprised me. I mean, as the same things I was in Shanghai this April, that's really a big change in the industry because of the, I think, electrification. So the Chinese players are really growing very fast, and also they are reaching out to the world. And then I think also maybe one thing is quite special for the IAA is about the open space concept. You also see that, right, Pierrick?
Yeah, it was open spaces. So it was quite easy to go through the booth and have discussion with the people inside the booth. But still, some of them were completely closed, and you need to have an appointment with some people from the company. Otherwise, you couldn't see anything from the exhibitor. So quite different from this concept.
And that's the closed booth in the open space timing. Yeah. So I think overall we will say our first impression about the show itself is that the IAA itself is downscaling, but we see a really increasing influence from the Chinese players. Yeah. So I think then I will also go a little bit more detail to see the players from China on the OEMs and the suppliers. Yeah. So I think probably also, Pierre, you will agree with me, is that one of the big focus of the LIS IAA is BYD.
Yes, completely. Yeah, BYD they had a huge booth with plenty of car models. Even their Denza brand was shown there, and Leap Motors as well. They had a huge booth. Yeah. With several car models as well. So quite impressive from the Chinese side.
Yeah, that's true. That's also I put here. Actually, BYD was almost the spotlight in the Shanghai Auto Show. It took really half an hour for me to get into their new premium brand, the Yangwang brand in April in Shanghai. But also here again, I think you can see it's also highly popular booth, I would say. BYD actually it's not the first time to IAA. 2 years ago they also joined together with I think I remember Great Wall. But I think 2 years ago was still not too much focus. But if you see this year, it's really a big change. So that's I think is a big also takeaway for us. And also Pierrick mentioned is another one is the Leap Motor. I think it's not a big one. It's a EV startup, but I think they have a lot of internal development, quite interesting. Here it shows kind of more centralized EE architecture. I think probably we'll also touch upon it later today. And apart from these OEMs, I think I also want to mention a bunch of other OEMs and also the suppliers. As you can see, I think one quite interesting one is the XEV, which is the brand is originated, I think, from Italy, but the whole supply chain is actually in China, and this is really 48 volt, so it's a kind of the micro mobility concept. But I think it works very well because you can really swap the 48 volt yourself, and then make it a very nice low cost solution for the e-mobility. But also you have also I think a bunch of other key players. I think I just lead a few of them, like say semiconductor players, let's say Basic, and also the others like Innovance. They also show their own components there. I think that's also quite interesting. So it's overall not only the OEMs but also the supply chains. They come a lot from the electrification point of view, from the ADAS point of view, from the infotainment point of view. I think it's kind of the additional business the Chinese players are really quite active in. Yeah. And then apart from that one, I think another thing as at Yole, because we are a semiconductor research company, so we are pretty focusing on is the semiconductors and software side. And I think it's also, for me, it's first time to see really a big semiconductor player or tier 2 suppliers from semiconductor show in IAA. So this is the booth of ST. So they have a nice portfolio of power electronics. So you can see here is that a very nice show of the silicon carbide, the whole life of silicon carbide, from the powder, the materials to the systems. And also I think they also have a nice portfolio on the MCUs. And I would say this is really new for the IAA, although I have seen that long time ago in China. So the tier 2 suppliers, they are starting to really get in the auto show, but I think now in Europe, we also see the start of the trend. And also here, I think is, as I mentioned, this is a basic semiconductor. That's another power electronics from China. So they also have a booth. It's pretty amazing. And so apart from the electrification, we have a huge bunch of new players. Let's say the new SoCs for the ADAS and the infotainment domains. Here you see I think the very familiar names, and Mobileye, Samsung, Qualcomm. But also apart from them, it's also first time for me to see is that the players in this part, they also started to kind of push the business in Europe, like Horizon Robotics, Black Sesame, and the ECARX and the SenseTime. So they are very active players in the ADAS and the infotainment domains. And then, but I mean, this is just a snapshot of all the semiconductor players in the show. I would want to highlight is that there's also a huge amount of LiDAR players. I think that's also pretty amazing. And Pierrick has been covered for LiDAR for a long time. And I think also you have been visiting most of the players. So you can maybe share something with us on that.
Sure, no problem. So yeah, the LiDAR activity is, let's say, quite dense. And in this the IAA event, there were about 12 LiDAR players that were represented or having a booth there. And on top of that, there were also companies that were doing LiDAR perception software, like Veyron. So all the activity around LiDAR and automotive driving is quite dense. And among the LiDAR players that were on the event, they were representing different technologies. So there were the main leaders using polygon mirror. So like Valeo and Hesai. Autoel is more emerging, mostly a startup engaged with Hyundai Mobis. And then there were also big companies like Innoviz, Luminar, Continental, Microvision that acquired EBO last year. Continental was showing 2 different LiDAR. So their flash LiDAR that was presented some years ago, but the main LiDAR that they were showing was the one based on MEMS, and for which they are licensing the technology from AI. So using a combination of MEMS and 1550 nanometer in terms of wavelengths. And then we saw also LiDAR company using FMCW technology, like Mobileye and AEVA, for example, showing their progress on this technology and hoping to present first product by the end of the decade, so around 2027, 2028. There were also some companies mentioning using flash or sequential flash technology like Hesai or Liangdao or hybrid LiDAR systems. If we continue to the LiDAR market, just to put things back in the context, the leading player was not represented in this exhibition. So I am mostly thinking about InnoVision, so having 25% of the market in volume in 2022, and followed closely by Valeo and Hesai. as well, RoboSense was not present on the exhibition. So that's for 2022, and we expect that next year in 2023, the landscape will change even more. With SI could take more than 40% of the LiDAR market in volume, and followed by RoboSense and Innovision. What is clear on that is that there is a clear dominance on my Chinese LiDAR manufacturer. This is mostly due to the strong dynamics in China, with new OEMs implementing LiDAR on their car. So that's the good transition I wanted to show, that Chinese OEMs are implementing LiDAR on their car. Most likely, all of them are putting LiDAR on the roof, because it's still a good position to see far away and having still a large field of view on the car. But in terms of aesthetic, it's still under discussion if customers like it or not. Maybe yes, maybe not. Still an open discussion. But the next evolution that is started by two players like SI and Cepton is to make LiDAR with a low thickness, so that can be integrated behind the windshield. And on this exhibition, WideEye, they had a booth there, and they were showing a windshield where you could integrate a LiDAR behind it. So that's thanks to this very low thickness of the LiDAR to place it next to the forward ADAS camera. So quite interesting for future market, not only in China but also in Europe and US. So a few words on lighting, because automotive is not only automated driving but also lighting, because lighting is part of safety, but now is clearly a part of the design of the car. So lighting is going horizontal. It's a trend that we are seeing since a few years, with slim headlamps, with more functionality, with ADB and matrix headlamps. Also, we have seen a lot of cars with lights going from side to side, with lit logos, either on the front or on the rear of the car, sometimes both. And another thing we have seen on this event, that some tier ones were showing parts of lighting that was implemented on the front side or on the rear side, with displays. Sometimes it's a low resolution display. Sometimes the resolution is a bit higher. But it's clear that displays are coming in cars to have a better communication with other road users, mostly. So in terms of semiconductors, we are at Yole, we are following a lot of type of semiconductors, from analog, ASIC, imaging, memories, to MEMS, MCU, photonics, power electronics, processors, RF, and other type of sensors. We have a deep understanding of automotive semiconductors, and we are publishing a report on automotive semiconductor trends every year to follow and to have a better understanding on this semiconductors taking now a huge part of automotive.
Yeah. Maybe also worth for mentioning is that, I mean, as mentioned, so our automotive semiconductor report is really covering a lot of different type of devices. But on top of that, also as Pierrick mentioned, the lighting and the display part is also very important. I mean, they are not covering in this report, but they are also nicely covered by the other groups at Yole. And I think this is really the kind of the hardware part. I mean, but don't forget the software side. Actually, I think software is not something not really totally new to the automotive industry. Actually, we have been use it for things, for example, the development of the cars, for the logistics and the production things, and also for the dealer management. That's really something have been used in the industry for decades. But in the past year, we see a strong rise of demand for semiconductor, for the software. One part is about, okay, the new user interface system that's really more phone-like, I would say more smartphone-like feeling. So that's also need quite a lot of new software to support that one, and also the new EE architecture that you will keep evolving system. That's also need a new kind of software. So that's why in the auto show you see really a lot of software players at the show as well. And another quite interesting I would want to highlight is that about the usage of the car. Before the car was the focus is okay, how to build a car, how to manufacture the car, and how to sell them, and that afterwards is done. It's the dealer's business. But now, I think it's the players. They are looking more to the usage of the car, and also because we are in really driving a smart cars, we are generating tons of information of message, and how to really benefit from this data, or in other words, how to monetize this kind of data. That's also very interesting questions. And also, I think here we see some nice practices at the show as well. So, for example, the ASW, they are the cloud service provider to most of the OEMs worldwide. So they are actually storing the information from the cars there, and then try to also help the OEMs, also the other players, to generate money from that one. I think it's quite open discussion, but maybe one interesting example of how to monetize the data is the so-called user-based insurance. I think Tesla is pioneering that one, and also I know some other OEMs also trying that one. It's very interesting. It's that based on your driving behavior and also the region you are driving, they can also set you a very specific insurance for you, because you are not average. You have a good behavior, you should be rewarded. I think that this is a very nice example of how to make a good use of the data, but this is just the beginning. Another very interesting one is from the bank. Honestly, I rarely see a bank in the auto show, and JP Morgan says, okay, they are also trying to develop a on-vehicle payment kind of method or total ideas solutions for the OEMs. That's also, I think, the ways to help people making better use of the car, and also to generate additional service-based revenue in the future. So I would say, to put everything in a wrap, is that we really see the rising semiconductor and software content in the car, and also the same in the show. So here we listed some of the very impressive companies, leader as explained by Pierrick, and also some others we are seeing at the show. So we think this is just the start of the trend, and probably I think in the coming years we will see that more and more. So apart from that part, I think we mentioned we are covering all different kind of semiconductors, and we see the strong rise of semiconductor use, majorly focusing in two domains. One is the ADAS, or the infotainment ones. That's we just seen related to the leader part, and the other part, of course, is electrification. So that's the part I'm focusing on. So I will just go through a few slides and see what is for me the main takeaways on the electrification trend. So I think in Europe we have a very strong feeling that in the show, basically we only see BEV there. So as I put it here, so BEV is very strong. So both from the cars you see from the OEMs, also from solutions from suppliers. Basically, I think it's probably something like more than 80% of them is about BEV. Of course, you see some things like hydrogen and hybrid solutions, but they are really kind of the corner of the show. So why Europe has such a strong focus or push to BEV? I think this can be also explained by the legislation landscape. So as we can see here is that basically, I think since this year, Europe finalized the regulation to push to almost a ban on ICE or ICE phase out by 2035. And so this is a really strong push. And then we can see checking with the old OEM for their European OEM for their planning is that they have a very strong transition from ICE. But I mean, because I also been to the other part of the world, so I see actually in China you have also quick rise of the hybrid technologies. So that's a little bit different compared to Europe. And I think I will not go to details, but I would say is that there is also some technology choices behind it. And as you can see here, that China and Japan, they are more taking one route, and Europe is taking another route. So that has some influence on the final choices. But that's not our focus. If you are interested in the hybrid discussions, you can always reach out to us. But the first impression is that BEV is really the choice of Europe. And then I think if you talk about the BEV, then nobody can skip the part of battery. Even though at Yole we are focusing on semiconductor, but we do have colleagues covering the power battery as well. So talking about the battery, I think then actually we see mostly Chinese players there. I think that's not a surprise. That's actually the situation of the industry. So I think that like CATL, they are really showing off their kind of the best solutions from them. So trying to get the European market, I think. So here you have the Qilin battery pack, and also there, I think just a few months ago they released the Shenxing cell that's enabling 4C charging, very fast, very fast, high-speed charging, and also the other quite new and also impressive batteries at their booths as well. So this is really the offering from CATL. And then apart from that one, we see also a lot of other players. So I only mentioned the two here. One is Farasis. They are starting already production in Turkey. And also REPT, they are also starting an office in Munich. So that's really a bunch of the new players. They are very active in Europe. And then another thing is that in electrification, I would say is about integration. So it means to really putting different systems into one unit to really save the cost and also the space. Quite mainstream solution now is the so-called e-axle. That means you put the inverter, the motor, and the gearbox together. And so talk about electrification. I think we have started a discussion a few years ago, and also we said, okay, there's one thing very interesting. We call it extended battery pack. That means to put the OBC, DC-DC, and BMS things on top of the battery to do another type of integration. And before we only have the Tesla as the only case, but quite excitingly is that in the show itself, we see at the booths of Volkswagen. So Audi also built a very similar concept for their next generation PPE platform. So as you can see here, as they are also putting the OBC DC-DC on top of the battery pack to have the so-called extended battery pack solution. So I think we are very excited because this is a solution we started to point it out a few years ago, and we see is that it's really accepted by the industry. And then some other things about the electrification side, especially on the component. So I would say it's kind of the 3-in-1 e-axle using silicon carbide at 800-volt platform. It's kind of the new standard for the next generation for e-axle. So I will not go to detail, but you see them almost everywhere. But is there any differentiator on that? Or everybody has the same thing? Actually, it's not. If you really check the details, there are a lot of new things still popping up on the e-axle side. So for example, I think this is the one from Remark. They have a dual motor approach to really integrate the two motors into one. And this is from BYD. They are, as discussed in the integration part, they have an all-in-one system. It's not only the e-axle, but also the OBC, DC-DC, the BMS, the VCU, everything integrated. And also you have some new motor concepts. This is from Mahler. It's got magnetic free, I think, to solve the problem of some critical materials. And also one very interesting concept from Schaeffler is that they have the so-called electric thermal integration. So they are not only putting all the electric system, but also the thermal solutions into one unit. So that's really showed off that all different new development in the e-axle or in the powertrain side. And then, of course, don't forget about us, the power semiconductor part. So as I just mentioned, ST has really a nice booth showing off everything on silicon carbide. And also, yeah, then here you can see is that this is the more zoom in look for the semiconductor devices from the quite famous system or solutions from ST, which has been widely used in the cars nowadays. And we are not going to detail, but our colleagues at SysPlus or Yo SysPlus, they really have the detailed analysis of a lot of these modulars. You can check their report for that. And then another one I also just briefly mentioned is that it's a basic semiconductor. This is the new player from China. So they are doing not only the packaging of silicon carbide modular, as you can see here, but also they are also doing the gate drivers at the same time. So that's also a quite complete solution. Yeah. Another thing also I want to point out is that the ones from Bosch. So this is their very new power modular B6. So it's compatible to silicon carbide, silicon IGBT, and silicon carbide MOSFET. And also very interesting new products is about the 4-channel isolated gate driver. So that's one gate driver can drive multiple 4 devices, not like one before. So you can see is that because this has a multiple gate driver integrated, it can really drive individual devices to make some nice energy saving from that part, efficiency improvement. And one thing is also I'm just thinking loudly. It's quite interesting because we are seeing that for Tesla, the approach for them to reduce the silicon carbide use is to have hybrid device. That means in one modular you have both silicon carbide MOSFET and also silicon IGBT parallels, and they could also need to be driven separately. That can be probably more easier realized by this kind of a new device. So this is just some I mean wild guess new implementation we are getting there. And then I think also another one I want to point it out is also a Chinese player. It's called Innovance. So they are a tier 1 supplier. So they supply the whole electric powertrain, but they're also getting into their own silicon carbide modular. So this is the first time they show at the booth. I think it's pretty amazing. So that means not only the OEMs, but also tier 1s, they're more moving to the semiconductor side. And also on their booth, they also showed off the first ever, I think, gallium nitride HAMT-based OBC prototype. I think also this is also the trend we are picking up. So we will also put it as a focus of our next year's e-mobility report. And last but not least is Remark. So I would say this is my personal pickup for the show. So at their booth, you can really see they have some nice products. One is about the integrated e-axle. As I mentioned, this is a dual motor design, and the other one is their new generation of the battery pack. So I'm not going to the detail, but you can really read here. They have a lot of nice try with pushing the limit of the technology. I think that's something also I would say it's really worth of focusing and having a nice contact and information from them. And so overall, we will say this is the kind of our point 3. So we see a strong dominance of BEV in Europe. But as of the batteries, the key components, we see also very a big influx of the Chinese battery players, as I listed here. But also, as just explained, we see still a lot of innovations and new ideas on the powertrain and the thermal management part. And then I think also during our discussion period, we also discuss a little bit about the EE architecture, right?
Yes, it's clear that it is a strong trend in cars now to have more centralized architecture. So moving to a distributed architecture to a more centralized, it's pretty popular for domains like ADAS, like infotainment, or body and chassis to gather data from multiple sensors or actuators and so on. So, and what was quite impressive that at the Magna booth, they had a demonstrator showing a domain controller for ADAS, gathering all the data coming from all the sensors, so camera, radar, LiDAR, even ultrasonic sensors, to process all the data in one controller. And they were expecting that they would use a computing power about 500 TOPS, 600 TOPS for the first level of automated driving. And even from ZF, that were mentioning the highest goal of automated driving, they were mentioning 1,000 or 1,500 TOPS of computing power. So that's quite huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also at the show we see the Leapmotor. They also show off a kind of their centralized EE architecture. I think that's a pretty clear trend, and I would say it's very very popular with among the Chinese players. And so this is a page from the Shanghai Auto Show in April. By the way, we also have shared a video on that one. You can also check our YouTube channel and also our website. And also, I think there you can really see a huge amount of OEMs that are working on this kind of central EE architecture there. And what I want to highlight is that I think for the body domains is kind of turning to be the mainstream. And for the ADAS and the infotainment domains, I think because they are really already new things there, so they are kind of already quite domain controllers there. And then probably in the future, there are also even more merged to the centralized EE architecture. And even with the powertrain domain and also the chassis domains, they are relatively high safety standards. So they are kind of slow in this progression, but we also see things are really moving. So especially now they are moving to domain controller, but for the other things, especially for the body part, is moving to more to zone solutions. But I think talking about this side, I think it's Adrien, you have been working on the high performance SoCs and also the computational stuff, and I think they are really the leading aspect in terms of the centralized EE architecture. So maybe you can share some ideas you have on that.
Yeah, many thanks. You indeed on that. I have several things to share. As you mentioned, it is really a strong trend which is ongoing for years now into cars. We are going through more and more centralization, and this is true for all the main domain that we have into cars. From decades now, we are seeing more and more functions which are being integrated into cars. They can do more and more things. And in the beginning of this trend, this augmentation of number of functions was going in pairs with the augmentation of the number of ECUs. Basically, at the beginning, you had the one ECU per function. And then in order to keep a sustainable amount of growth of semiconductor component and to optimize the cost and that kind of thing, we really saw the arrival of partial centralization and we started to see more and more number of function per ECU, per zone, per domain controllers. And we are progressively going in the domain control zone where we will have domain controllers for the most important domain application that we can have into cars. So this is true for all the different domains. And now I will focus on the ADAS domain controller, which is really where we can see the biggest changes in terms of, at least from the computing and the processor point of view. We are really seeing that there is a lot of evolution on this specific domain at the moment. One of the first drivers is that we need more and more sensors to do the automatization of the car. So we have two drivers for this automatization. The first one is regulation. So all the car are being pushed to have a minimum level of autonomy to increase the safety. So this is one of the main driver. And the other driver is that premium OEM want to provide the best user experience, to provide the more advanced ADAS features. We are really reaching some, and now we are at the beginning of some level of autonomy, like eyes of things, which can really provide value from users, specifically when they will be able to drive without handling on the highway, for instance. So that's not yet the case in a complete ODD context for all the highway, but it is really a strong trend ongoing, which is really pushing the high-end OEMs to put more and more sensors into their cars. And so with all this growing number of sensors, we cannot really have one processor per sensors as it was the case for the last years. And this is a very strong driver on the second trend, which is centralization. We want to have one domain controller for ADAS to really centralize the stream generated by all these more and more sensors, which also have higher and higher resolution from another side, which is also increasing the resolution and the amount of data to handle in real time. So all that combined together, we are going through partial centralization. First, centralization of some camera, for instance, to have only one big processor for all the different cameras, or at least the ADAS cameras. And then we are going to a more and more full centralization, where we will have one domain platform for all the ADAS parts. So this is really something which is pushed and which is followed in detail by the different players that you mentioned. You previously in your presentation, you mentioned Mobileye, you mentioned also Samsung, Horizon Robotic, you have also NVIDIA, which is there, Black Sesame, which is arriving with innovative solution and which is getting nice traction at the moment. So there are a lot of ongoing on this side, and this is really reflecting what you discussed in the show. And then in order to move in on this part, I just want to highlight that this is typically the kind of thing that we were studying in our report, Computing and AI for Automotive. So we really build a modelization of the evolution of the car architectures. It is really something that we saw in the last years, and this is really the basis of what ADAS players are making at the moment in order to still be in the races, because the more business model and their offer is really being reshaped and shaken by this trend, and they need to follow to be still in the next generation of the car, which may have a totally different architecture on the ADAS point of view. There is a lot of competition, a lot of new players. So it's really exciting to see that. And we had to make this modelization in our report in order to really show what is happening at the moment. And to base our forecast and that kind of thing. Of course, all the different players are taking different paths. So it's tricky to really make the modelization, but with this this model, we are enabled to really map what we are seeing in the past, and there are it's a basis for a lot of exciting discussion. But now it's time to conclude this show. Maybe you want to make a wrap up and to say the different key messages that the viewer should take away from this presentation?
Yes, okay, no problem. Thank you for the very nice introduction part on the high performance computational part. And I think it's as we just gone through with all the pages, I think it's, one thing we are seeing is that the show, even though the show itself is downscaling, but we see really a strong presence of the Chinese players. I think they are trying to also starting with in the European market. And secondly, is as I mentioned, that semiconductor and software contents are really getting more critical for the industry. We see really a bunch of players there, and we believe this is the trend is going to be further developing for the future. And the last but not least is that we think is electrification is the only solution in Europe, and also to support in that part, we will need a lot of investment and innovations in both the battery side and also the powertrain side. So this is wrapping up the main takeaways, especially from the technical point of view. But also I want to highlight is that even though the show itself is a kind of scaling down, you have less new vehicles from the OEM, but still it's almost the best place for us to really get into the technology advancement, and also to have really meet people discussion with the players in the field. And then I think it's at Yole, as mentioned, that we are really putting all the key semiconductors in the automotive together. So this is the report of, we call the semiconductor trends in automotive. The latest issue, the 2023 version, will come in, I think, in weeks. So stay tuned with us. And if you have any further questions, it's not really fully covered. I think it's yeah, as mentioned, we have really different topics really go into the details of each of the technologies, and they are also putting summarized in individual reports. And also, I want to highlight is that at Yole, since this year, I think thanks to the marketing team, we are trying a new format. So we have the so-called Analyst Thursday, and for each of that, we have multiple analysts, so centralized with each nice topics, have some nice discussions. So here we have the one for the EV and the other one for the others, and they are all free online through our YouTube channel or our website. So if you have interest, you can just go and click them and come up with any questions for discussion. And yeah, last is the statement from the company in the communication. And I think on behalf of the team today, I really appreciate your presence, your listening, and also we are looking forward to the further discussion with you. Thank you.